Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So just recently, this story hit the media, and I'm not surprised, to be quite frank. Now, if anybody is wondering who this is, what this situation is pertaining to, I'll explain it in summary, if you will, and then I'll explain the actual name of this woman. Now, we all remember this particular woman from the Usher concert with the cherry. I think she's been called the cherry concert woman, the auntie from the cherry concert woman, whatever, etc. She does actually have a name. She's a real person in real life. Her name is Jamelita Tillman. I probably messed up her first name all the way. I apologize for that. Now, let me say this first before I keep going. Me personally, I've said before, I don't do these concerts. I don't do these celebrities because they're all cut from the same cloth. There might be a few of them that have some integrity and dignity and they set a good example, but it's all the same. And these concerts are not you supporting the artist. You're worshiping them. And you're worshiping whatever evil forces and whatever demons they are tapped into, so to speak. So that's why I discourage people from going to these kind of things and participating and giving their money to these celebrities. Now, another reason why I wouldn't be in the faces of these celebrities doing this kind of stuff, and this is not me trying to condemn her or shade her. I'm not the judge, jury, or executioner. I'm just putting this out there. It's because you don't know where these celebrities been at. You don't know who these celebrities have been with. Them women didn't know where Usher's hands was before he got to them. Some of them probably didn't care, but they should. I've always thought, even since I was a child, this is not safe to do. This is not good for the health. You're, doing all this stuff all in this man's face. You don't know what he could have. You don't know who he might have laid down with. People be going backstage with these celebrities in some, it's a once in a lifetime. Okay, so what happens when you pick up a once in a lifetime package, so to speak? And they'll still try to save face and make it seem like, it was worth it. No, it wasn't. So y'all don't know what be going on with these celebrities. So be careful with that kind of stuff. Once again, that's why I discourage people from doing this kind of stuff. But this woman is an adult. She has her own money. She does what she wants to do. That doesn't give anybody the excuse to drag her name through the mud, because they were talking about this woman even before the lies we're about to get into. Oh, look at the cherry auntie lady, whatever they were calling her. They were talking about her before the mess hit the fan. And I didn't think it was right, because there are some women who have done worse at these concerts. As a matter of fact, with Usher in previous tours, he has brought women on stage to dance on, to grind on, to dance with. The part of his, bring a woman on the stage and, do whatever. Y'all know those little moments that they have in these concerts. He's done that before. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Trading Places tour that he did years ago. He brought women on stage. Some of them, they crossed their legs, they sat there, they looked pretty, etc. They, were in the moment. Others were just doing the most. Like this one particular woman who was just grinding on him respectfully, not trying to disrespect whoever this woman was, as if she was some kind of woman of the night working for money. I said what I said. And a lot of people were like, okay, so the other women were just chilling. They might have danced a little bit whenever he did the side-to-side sway, if you will. They, got with the program. But this one, she was doing a little bit much. I don't even think I can play the video. It's on YouTube, but I'm not putting it on this channel, which is why you see still images of all of the stuff she was doing during this particular section and moment of the concert. There were even people in some of these YouTube videos, and I remember because I saw it, because of it going viral, saying, okay, she's doing a bit too much. But I don't even remember them dragging her the way that they did this other lady for doing the cherries, if you will. Now, what does this have to do with Shannon Sharpe, you may ask? Well, I'm so glad that you did. That's the whole point of this video. Allegedly, this woman is accusing Shannon Sharpe, his podcast, and Chad Big Head Ocho Cinco, yes, I said it, of lying on her and spreading the rumors and lies that she was married. Remember, people were saying, this woman is married. Her husband's getting her divorce. Nobody had that information. Where did that information even come from? Nobody even knew who this woman was. But they were sitting up on the internet, fixing their mouths and their fingers to type, she's married. How dare she disrespect her husband by eating cherries out of Usher's hands? I hope he divorces her and takes everything. Well, allegedly, those were all lies. And y'all know I have to say allegedly, right? that information was not the truth. Those lies came from somewhere. And she is alleging that Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco were the main ones pushing that lie. And I quote, Ms. Tillman is suing Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco for $20 million, alleging they falsely claimed she was divorcing after her viral Usher concert moment, end quote. And I also quote, the defamation suit now in federal court says the false comments aired on an April the 12th podcast episode, end quote. And I also quote, Tillman says the claims hurt her reputation and is calling for tougher regulations on media outlets spreading misinformation, end quote. And also, I've said this before, it needs to be a felony. Now, some people might think it's going overboard. If not a felony, there still needs to be very heavy legal consequences for lying on people, for spreading misinformation and disinformation. Because when Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco sat up on that podcast and allegedly lied about that woman being married when she wasn't, people came out of the framework to talk about her like a dog, y'all. They were talking about her like a dog. And it was black people. This is why all that mess people be talking about, oh, you should support this person because they're black. What happened to black people? Look out for black people. Yeah, what happened to that? Because when it comes time for the truth and for people to not lean into biases like colorism, misogyny, sexism, y'all throw that out the window for who you want to, but keep it on the table for who you don't like. These people, black people, men and women, were dragging that woman. Content creators were making videos about her saying, oh yeah, she raggedy for that. Couldn't be me, I'd take everything she had. They were talking about that woman, let me reiterate it, like she was a dog. In ways I don't believe they would have talked about somebody else. I do believe that it was mostly because she's a black woman. She's a tall, heavier set, dark-skinned black woman. They were already waiting for a reason to rip this woman to shreds verbally, to disrespect her, to defame her. And when allegedly Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharpe lied about her marital status, which made her look like she was participating in infidelity publicly, that gave everybody the reason who already wanted to talk about her or to talk about some black woman to do so. That justified them being disrespectful and hateful. They already felt hateful. They just needed a reason. And the two of them gave them one to go after this woman. And I don't want to hear any, oh, it wasn't that bad. Yes, it was. And it always is and has the potential to be in these kind of situations. I've talked about before on this channel how lying on people, saying certain things, promoting certain narratives, being racist, being misogynistic, being sexist, having these goofy double standards when it comes to whatever, colorism, how it very negatively affects people. And when you take it to social media, all it takes is for one person that a bunch of toxic people identify with, Shannon Sharpe and a lot of his followers and the people who are standing by his side, sticking beside him in delusion, and they can weaponize these people against the people who they're talking about. This woman didn't do anything to Shannon Sharpe or Chad Ochocinco, yet and still, because of the things that they said, the lies they promoted, y'all know I have to say allegedly, all of the people who follow them, like them, identify with them, were then swayed to feel a certain negative way about her because of what they said. We all know, or at least we should by now, that these same kind of delusional individuals that put on a cape, if you will, for these celebrities and these podcast hosts, if you will, these athletes, these musicians, whoever they are, these same delusional individuals, they don't read, they're illiterate, they don't research, they don't do any of that. So they will believe what these celebrities say. They will take everything that comes out of the mouths of these celebrities as the gospel truth, so to speak. And if they become weaponized enough, again, I can't use that word enough because it's serious. I don't think people understand how serious it is. Some of these people become so triggered because of their delusional loyalty to these celebrities, to people like Shannon Sharpe, that when he gets on his platform and says something about somebody, they will go to that person's platform and harass them. This kind of stuff happens all the time. Fan bases will go and harass people, leave comments, leave direct messages to these people who their idol, if you will, has said something negative about. We don't know what that woman could have been experiencing all this time. For all we know, she could have been getting all kinds of nasty, dirty messages talking about her privately, through her DMs, through social media posts. Like, people got to understand how deep this kind of stuff goes. Once again, nobody should act surprised because it's happened before. Again, a celebrity, some kind of person with a large following that delusional people identify with, worship the ground they walk on, says something negative about somebody, their followers will go and make trouble for those people. And I can't get over these people who love to talk about, oh, just turn off the phone, just delete the app. Because I remember seeing this in I think it was the National Convocation, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which one. A preacher used and wasted the platform he had to speak to God's people, to make a comment, which this is another thing that pisses me off real fast. Don't be using God's platform to promote your opinion. Do what God told you to do and preach the word. No, he used the platform to basically say, oh, cyberbullying is not an actual thing. Just turn off the phone. Just delete the app. Somebody should have sued him just for that. I'm serious. Because there are people who have deleted themselves because of cyberbullying. And no, it doesn't just stop when you turn off the phone, turn off the laptop, shut down the iPad, delete the app. Because if there are people who are so delusional in their head, they want to go after you, they could come after you in real life. There have been people who have gotten off social media because of this and still got harassed in real life because of the people in their community, their local community, who is one of those delusional people I was talking about, was so far down the rabbit hole of idol worship of these celebrities after what they said. When they saw them, they were like, hey, you're that person he was talking about. I got problems with you. It's stupid. Oh, but it's very, very possible to have happened. And some people have experienced it. So for all these, oh, cyberbullying is not a thing, that's a disgusting thing to say. You will reap what you've sown for downplaying and minimizing the hell, the misery, the trauma, and the abuse that other people have suffered because you haven't went through it or you don't think it's an actual thing. You just keep that in mind. That's for all the people who feel that way and for all the people who feel that way only. This woman alleged that she made multiple attempts to get in contact with Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco to get them to stop, to take those videos down. Allegedly, she even sent them a cease and desist. Allegedly. They ignored. Allegedly. She said multiple times she maintained that she was not married, was not in a relationship. Now, if it's gone this far, because some people love to say, oh, that ain't true. Like, how do we know? If it's gone this far, lawyers are not going to take it this far without making sure everything is in order. They're not going to risk their livelihoods on a lie. They're not going to risk money, their license, on a lie intentionally if it can be avoided. They want to be able to pay their bills, so they're going to make sure they do their due diligence. All they had to ask that woman is, are you actually married? If you are, produce that marriage license. And when she said, here you go, and it was nothing, an open palm, if you will, of nothing, because there was no marriage license because she was not married, grounds for defamation lawsuit. And I quote, she said the incident has affected her professional and personal life, including her work as director of the Harold Washington Cultural Center and her advocacy for homeschooling, end quote. So not only did these people essentially almost mess up her bag, if you will, as they say, they're out here throwing a wrench in things that she's trying to accomplish. You think these people who are running their mouths on the internet, the delusional idol worshipers of these celebrities, these people on social media, people like Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco, are going to do anything for the community, are going to make any contributions to anything other than themselves? No. Even if they had the money, they wouldn't do it. You saw Shannon Sharpe brag about how, once again, a take it or leave it kind of attitude when it came to his own daughter paying for her wedding. There are men who would kill for an opportunity to have the kind of money that he had to provide a good wedding for his daughter, for their daughters. I'm not saying that we should be just throwing away money, but if you got the money to make your daughters one of the best days of her life, memorable, beautiful, something big, why wouldn't you? To have that kind of mentality about his own daughter speaks volumes about him, and it's nothing but bad. This woman was saying you can't just be throwing around the word allegedly. You've got to do your due diligence, as it says right here in the article. She said there's a reason for why you have producers and researchers. And I've been saying this. Some of these people with these large platforms, they have too many followers, too much influence to be that incompetent, that illiterate, that lazy, that wrong and unethical with how they conduct themselves. I've said this before. If you have that large of a following, because Shannon Sharpe has millions of views across his videos. I've said before, if you cannot make sure you do the proper research so you won't be out here slandering somebody, causing somebody all kinds of distress and defamation and having people go and harass that person because they're listening to what you're saying while idolizing you, you are too incompetent to have a platform. You don't need one because you're causing chaos and misfortune for other people and you're monetizing off of it. He got monetization off of those videos talking about that woman, drawing in all kinds of men that are just like Shannon Sharpe, self-hating, disrespectful, misogynistic. And I quote, "Don't be so quick to chase the popular culture story," end quote. I thought that was a very important statement because some people, like it was stated, are so quick to jump on something that may or may not be true. It's ridiculous. That's why I hate this culture of these really quick trends that people jump on real fast and then jump off. Because what happens if it's misinformation? Y'all done all made this viral, screwed over whoever you wanted to. You didn't care because it wasn't you or you didn't like them anyways for stupid reasons. Like because they're a woman, because they're a man, because they're black, whatever, because they're a Christian, whatever it was. And then when the truth surfaces, then everybody wants to be quiet, act like they don't know how to read, be illiterate, act like they don't know how to access the internet anymore. They don't want the truth to go viral because they don't care and because they are not decent enough to admit they were wrong. Well, we shouldn't have said that. We shouldn't have ran with that story because we didn't even know if that was true. We didn't even do our research before we set our behinds up on our platform and said that about that person. Speaking of the culture also, something I've talked about on this channel as well, there's a culture of disrespect, a culture of violence, a culture of trauma, a culture of abuse. All people have to do is throw out some code words, point the finger at a specific person, start a narrative, and people will jump on it like white on rice. It's embedded in the culture. For instance, racism. That's one thing a lot of people will come together and unite on. And we know this because there are people who will say blatantly racist things, get on GoFundMe, other websites, other places like that, and then ask for money to pay their bills, feed their family after their job fires them and holds them accountable for doing stuff like this. That just happened just recently, apparently, with some guy that literally laughed and thought it was a joke to say he was a fascist on that podcast. I think it was a Jubilee podcast. Now, I don't think it was a joke. I told y'all before, I believe people the first time they say things. So if he called himself a fascist, I believe him. It also seems like he was trying to dance around completely and utterly condemning what the Nazis did, so to speak. Seemed like he was just beating around the bush. The guy kept asking him, hey, do you condemn what these people did? And he wouldn't just come out right and say, yes, it was deplorable, it was awful, it was a stain on the history. It should have never happened. And his job basically said, oh, we don't play those kind of games. And it wasn't just about racism against black people or immigrants. It was the racism that was against the Jays, if you will, that laced his statement, if you will, which is the real reason why I believe he got fired. But then allegedly went and ran to one of these GoFundMe websites, like I said before, and people were supporting him. He had allegedly thousands of dollars built up from other racists who also believe in what he believes in to keep him afloat while they all go to their jobs and make money working to get that money that they're giving him that he's getting for free after doing and saying something he should not have done, that he is reaping the consequences of. Another example is that lady who went viral, the white lady, for using the N-word and then went to Piers Morgan and was talking about how she's a proud racist, that she doesn't care. Even Piers Morgan said, okay, well, you're a despicable human being. You understand that, right? And she basically said that she was proud of it. And there are people who support her. It's a part of the culture. With the black culture, they like to jump on certain people of certain demographics. Black women and usually plus size individuals. And I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, that's not true, because we have too many examples of that. How black women and the image of black women are used as stereotypical, negative stereotypical caricatures, if you will, in pop culture, in music, in movies, in urban culture, in literature. Think of all the content creators who mimic what they think black women, all black women look like, and then monetize off of the worst, most disrespectful stereotypes of that idea, knowing good and doggone well that that's not how all black women act, and even how some non-black women act. On the contrary, the same stereotype that the culture, that the community, that other black people will try to slap all black women with is how some non-black women act, but you don't see them as disrespected in the culture, in media, in movies, TV shows, as black women are. Once again, there are too many examples. Think of a certain individual. I'm going to just say his name, Tyler Perry. Everybody wants to say, oh, but that's Tyler Perry. We support him. He's black. He's done a lot for the community. Yeah, a lot of damage, especially to the image of black women, under the delusion and disguise of support for black people, black women, and Christianity. He's deceived and deluded a lot of people, which is very unfortunate. Even in the gaming industry and culture, black women have suffered the most disrespect. And the most recent, well, I can give you two examples. Exhibit A is when one of these game companies, I don't remember which one it was, put together and then put out the trailer for that game, Grand Theft Auto 6, also known as GTA 6. They had a trailer where they were random, non-playable characters just walking around. They showed the main characters, one of which I guess you can play because it was a part of the story. There were people breaking down what they think the story is going to be, the lore, if you will, based on the trailer. What do people do instead of saying, oh, a new GTA is coming out. Woohoo, we finally get to play a new one. No, what did they say instead? Oh, I can't wait to mow down the black women characters with my car. That's the kind of stuff that they were saying. You even had black people, black men talking about the same thing. It went viral. If I'm not mistaken, I even made a video. It was some time ago because they've been complaining about how long it's been since the trailer and they still haven't released it yet. I remember when this went viral, there was a young black man who was saying all kinds of disrespectful mess about what he was going to do to those black women characters. And this ninja had a black girlfriend. Allegedly, there were people who sent messages to his girlfriend to warn him, and I don't blame them. They were looking out, because ain't no way I'm about to be in a relationship with you, and I find out this how you talking in the chat rooms, on Discord, on Reddit, wherever, Twitter, X. Oh no. Whenever you go to work, I'm taking the day off. And when you go to work, I'm packing my stuff and I'm leaving. And I don't want to hear anybody talking about some stupid, goofy mess. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's just what he said about the characters. That's not what he felt about her. The devil's a good liar, and so are you if that's how you feel, if that's how you really think. Because if that's what he's saying, if that's how he's talking, hidden, so to speak, when nobody who he knows can see him, unless they're calling attention to it and it's going viral, that's how he really feels deep down inside. And if that's the case, he doesn't need anybody. He doesn't need a girlfriend, because he's probably going to do something crazy anyways. That's what some people don't understand when it comes to relationships. Again, this is a part of the culture. Taking out for people in the wrong and not calling them out as it is. Which is why I stand for calling people out and telling the truth. Another example is the show Invincible. Yes, I've seen the show Invincible. The cartoon show, if you will, not the comic. They be doing some crazy stuff with these cartoons and comics. That's why I'll be a little nervous going in, because they be doing some wild stuff. I'm going to just put that out there. The character Amber was not black in the comics. People brought this up. I didn't read the comics, but I did research. And other people who were comparing the comics to the actual show said Amber was not black. In the comics, she was white. They changed her to black for the show and then made her insufferable for like the first season. Had everybody talking about how raggedy she was as a character. Now, some people, once again, will say, oh, you're reaching. No, I'm not. Because some people, some people will be mature and just look at it as maybe it was bad writing. Maybe somebody was taking their frustrations from being rejected by some woman out on this character in this show. Or they switched her to being black for the same reason I've been talking about. There are some people who are not going to sit up and be mature and say, oh, she's just a character. It's not that big of a deal. No, how they feel about her as a character is going to translate to how they feel about all black women. That's how people's sick minds work, unfortunately, in this day and age. And it's so easy for people who are not black and who are not a woman, who are not black women, to say, oh, you're reaching. Well, yeah, you can say that because you're from a comfortable, safe disposition, because it's not you that it's happening to. It's not the people who look like you who it's happening to. Exhibit C, even though I didn't even bring it up before, I have multiple black men in my family who play Call of Duty, who will tell you that they're very racist in that game. And allegedly, y'all know I have to say allegedly, there's not a lot that Call of Duty, the game and the people who develop it, do to put certain blocks, if you will, to prevent that racism. I don't play Call of Duty myself, although I've had black men who I know who are in my family who have told me things like there are people in Call of Duty who play Call of Duty who will change their username that I guess they have over them because, you know, they all have like some kind of thing where they rank people, something like that. Like I said, I don't play the game, so I don't know it that well. But change their username to NIGGERKILLER. The fact that Call of Duty didn't have some kind of rules and regulations set in place to keep them from doing stuff like this. And I don't want to hear anybody say, oh, they couldn't do it, because I've played games personally where I've seen people with my own eyes try to make their username filled with expletives, if you will, and it would not allow them to, so they can. But the fact that they did not set in measures, set in regulations to prevent that from happening, lets you know they weren't even thinking about the possibility of it happening, even though they know we live in a racist culture and country, or they just didn't care. Anyways, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but I will present evidence to prove my case, so to speak. And I quote, I think that there needs to be changes at a federal level that is regulating these streamers, these podcasters, and all of these people that are calling themselves news media outlets that are monetizing false information that most people may not have the courage to stand up for themselves. And I say no more. End quote. Remember what I said? You can't be out here calling yourself an outlet for media, a news outlet, if you will, for whatever it is, sports, entertainment, music, whatever it is, and you're too incompetent to do your own research, or you just don't care because you're going along with the culture, or because you know that the algorithm will push your content more because the algorithm pushes content based off of mess, based off of bias, based off of what the culture likes to see people do, which is talk about people like a dog, be misogynistic, be disrespectful to black women, be racist. You should not have a platform if you're going to be reckless either. That's another thing that they were saying. The reckless, just throwing around a false information that you didn't even care enough or was just too lazy to research. So busy trying to go viral and talk about people like it's a joke. And I keep reiterating this because, once again, I believe they went in specifically on her because she was a black woman. They knew what kind of attention and monetization that was going to draw in. And instead of doing research and doing the right thing, they hopped on an opportunity to do what the culture wanted to do. The sick-mindedness, the disrespectfulness that the culture wanted to relish in, which again speaks volumes to Shannon Sharpe and the lack of integrity that he has, and the clear issue, racial issue that he has as well, that he really needs to get help with. Once again, two other mentalities that nobody is here for, that I'm certainly not standing for. One is these people coming out of the woodwork talking about, oh, she doesn't have a case. She's just trying to get money. No, she certainly does have a case. Again, because of the illiteracy and a lack of doing research and reading, people don't understand this. And it's not because they can't, it's because they won't. They won't do the work necessary. They won't do the due diligence, so to speak. Once again, there was a black lawyer right here on YouTube who actually broke down this situation, broke down the defamation lawsuit, like what it means to sue for defamation, point by point, and said out of his own mouth, she has a case. Because he threw around allegations, reckless intent, caused her all kinds of problems in her personal life, because ain't no telling who could have saw that mess that he put out, or whose child was watching it, because the kids be watching all this stuff. It was like, oh, mom, look at this. And then she was like, now, ma'am, are you out here sleeping around on your husband with a celebrity? How could you? You're supposed to be an example. And she's looking at them like, who in the world did you hear that from? Husband who? Marriage where? Didn't know how much it did to her personal life, and these people did not care. Like I said, a lawyer right here on YouTube broke down that she does indeed have a case. And some other comments that I've seen that a lot of people are really disgusting for making, trying to seem like, oh, Becky came and got her millions. Now the sisters are trying to. There are comments like this going viral with this situation, which is disgusting. Like, why do we have to play the race card like that in these kind of situations to that degree? That is disgusting and is sick-minded. This is not the Becky got him. Now the sisters got to come and get theirs. First of all, she's not even a Becky. If you're talking about the young lady who sued him first, she's of Latin origin once again. And second of all, that terminology, Becky, that the culture likes to use, that the community likes to use to describe every white woman, and for some people who don't like doing research, non-white women who also aren't black, it's actually quite disrespectful, I think, but whatever. And third, this is about a woman who is trying to get justice for an injustice that was committed against her. She has every right to file the lawsuit. People like to go crazy and do backflips over the numbers. Who do they think they are asking for all this money? Those people can ask for whatever they want to after they were the ones who were screwed over. How dare anybody say a victim can't ask for a certain amount of money, even though the abuser or the person who did them wrong had the audacity to do what they did? I don't see that same energy with the people who did what they did to these people. Why don't you have that same smoke for them people? Why don't you have the same smoke for Shannon Sharpe, who set up his raggedy behind on his platform and spoke lies about that woman, causing defamation to her image, chaos in her personal life to a degree we will never know. And she doesn't have to tell us because it's not our business. This is also about people pointing the finger at everybody except for the actual person at fault here. I spoke about this in the previous video concerning Shannon Sharpe. And once again, with the culture, especially of the black community, putting the blame on everybody except for who it's supposed to be on. If Shannon Sharpe set up and said something about that woman that was not true, that caused her chaos again, defamation in her personal life, she has the right to sue him instead of people blaming her and still talking about her. Even though what they said that caused them to talk about her to begin with wasn't even the truth, they're still talking about her now that she's trying to get justice for being screwed over in that way. They need to be talking about Shannon Sharpe. Now, some people have, but there are some people out here, once again, they have I'm a stick beside him type mentality. They are down the rabbit hole, as I've said before, as I like to call it, of delusion and idol worship. They're going to keep blaming everybody else who he screwed over for trying to get justice against him for screwing them over, instead of saying, Shannon, you shouldn't have did that. You were wrong for that. Some people are theorizing and speculating that he'll probably just pay her. That's what the lawyer, like I said, who I referenced, I'll try to remember to put his name and handle down in the description box. He said that usually when you see these big numbers, it's just to get the person's attention. It's not for people to say, oh, you don't deserve that money. Once again, how dare anybody to say that? Anyways, he said they usually start at a high number to get people's attention. Whoever did the wrong that got them into this situation, who's now reaping the consequences of their actions, will come in lower, and sometimes usually they meet somewhere in the middle. That's usually what happens. So like I said, people have been theorizing and speculating that he'll probably pay her quietly, settle quietly, so that he won't have to admit that he was wrong, like how he refused to admit he was wrong in the previous situation, to just admit that he shouldn't have said what he said. Like she said, like Ms. Tillman said in that statement, they really need to do something. The government needs to really do something when it comes to heavier regulations and penalties for stuff like this, to the point where if you defame somebody, not only do you owe them a settlement, but you also owe them a public apology on that same platform that you use to defame them. For a grown behind adult, especially a grown behind man, Shannon Sharpe's age, to just quietly sweep it under the rug is disgusting. It's a lack of integrity and dignity. And also screams, you didn't learn. You really didn't care. You did what you did. You stood on business. You didn't care. Like I said before, in cases of defamation, especially if it really, really impacted and affected the person in their personal life, and I say if, but no, I mean like when, because it will in these cases, not only should the person who did the defamation settle with their victim, but also, once again, be required by law to issue a formal apology and clear up the lies that they promoted on their channel and acknowledge them as lies that they should have never said before on that same platform they use to defame them to those same followers who set up and believe them. Y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel about all of this down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.